Before the Japanese Grand Prix even kicked off, Fernando Alonso dropped a line that felt almost like a warning. He said overtakes in 2026 are not even real overtakes anymore, they are evasive maneuvers. A car with more battery suddenly rushes up so fast that there is no space, no time, no real chance to attack cleanly. What you get instead is panic, a last-second move just to avoid smashing into the car ahead. And on lap 23 at SUZUKA, that exact scenario played out in a way that shook everyone watching. Oliver Bearman was chasing Franco Colapinto heading into Spoon Curve, and the speed difference was wild, around 50 km/h faster. Colapinto was harvesting energy, Bearman was pushing hard, and that gap, gone in a blink. Bearman had zero options left. He swerved onto the grass, shot across the track, and slammed into the barrier at over 190 mph. The impact hit 50 G, a brutal force that could have ended way worse. He climbed out, limping, clearly hurting, but somehow escaped with just a knee contusion, no fractures. That was luck, serious luck, and the paddock knew it instantly. This was not some random accident, it was exactly what drivers had been warning the FIA about for a long time. Now the pressure is on. Will the FIA step in before this happens somewhere without runoff space? Officially, they say yes. Meetings are locked in for April, and changes are expected by Miami, but drivers have heard promises before, and that doubt is still hanging in the air. What really matters is what actually shows up on May 1st, not promises, not plans. This closing speed issue in Formula One's 2026 rules is not some theory people are debating. It is built right into the way these new cars work. The new power units push around 350 kilowatts of electrical power, which is nearly half of the car's total output, and that changes everything. Drivers now have to constantly decide when to harvest energy and when to deploy it, lap after lap, second after second. And here is where it gets dangerous. When a car starts harvesting on a straight, it actually slows down. The electrical system pulls energy away from forward motion and stores it in the battery, but visually, nothing looks different. The car still seems flat out, the driver's foot is still planted, but the speed is quietly dropping. This is what they call superclipping, and it creates a situation Formula One has never seen before. Two cars heading into the same corner, one harvesting, one deploying, one suddenly losing speed while looking full throttle, the other charging in fast with no warning. It is a setup that tricks the eye and destroys reaction time. Bearman spelled it out clearly. A 50 km/h gap, not some small difference in braking points. That kind of speed jump is massive. By the time it shows up, there is no time to think, no time to adjust, just a split-second decision and a desperate swerve to avoid disaster. He went left, and that split-second move changed everything. At over 190 mph, he hit the grass, completely out of control. The car shot diagonally across the track, no grip, no stopping it, and then impact. A brutal 50 G hit into the barrier, and somehow he still climbed out. At SUZUKA, the approach to Spoon Curve has a wide runoff area, and that space made all the difference. Without it, this story could have gone very differently. Bearman himself admitted it straight away, saying drivers had already warned the FIA that this exact kind of moment was coming. And this was not some last-minute concern either. Just 2 days before the race, during the Friday briefing, stewards were told clearly, closing speeds were becoming a serious issue. The warning was there, written out, discussed, understood, then the race starts. And on lap 23, it plays out exactly like they said it would. This problem did not just show up in Japan out of nowhere. Drivers had been raising alarms since pre-season testing in Bahrain. Andrea Stella, McLaren's team principal, even called it out publicly before the season began. The Grand Prix Drivers Association talked about it in group meetings, while drivers kept reporting near misses during practice across multiple race weekends. This was building up for a while. But the FIA's response before Japan focused mostly on qualifying tweaks. They reduced energy recovery from 9 to 8 megajoules and adjusted the straight-line deployment zones. Those are technical changes, sure, but they only affect controlled, single-lap conditions. What they did not fix is the real problem: race situations. Cars running totally different energy strategies, drivers reacting to unpredictable speed shifts, and gaps closing in ways nobody can read in time. That chaos is where the danger lives. And Behrman said it plainly after stepping out of the wreck. Drivers warned the FIA this would happen, and then it did, exactly like that. He called it straight, an unfortunate outcome caused by speed gaps that Formula One has never seen before under these new rules. And that statement alone says everything about how serious this situation has become. Carlos Sainz, speaking as a director of the Grand Prix Drivers Association, did not hold back either. He made it clear the GPDA has been loud about this issue from the start. Not just in qualifying, but in full race conditions where things get unpredictable fast. He said drivers have been warning again and again that crashes like this are not rare, they are expected with how these regulations are set up. Then he dropped a line that should have everyone at the FIA paying attention right now. He said, "Imagine this exact scenario happening in Baku, or Singapore, or Las Vegas. Those tracks are tight, fast, and lined with walls. No wide runoff, no margin for error. Just barriers waiting if something goes wrong. That changes the risk completely." After Behrman's crash, the FIA responded with a very controlled and careful statement. They confirmed meetings are set for April, right in the gap between SUZUKA and Miami, especially after the Bahrain and Saudi Arabian Grands Prix were cancelled. The goal is to review how the 2026 regulations are actually working and decide if changes need to be made. They pointed out that these rules were built with flexibility, especially around energy management, allowing adjustments based on real race data. And they also said this kind of review was always part of the plan after the opening races. But here is what stood out. They did not say what changes are coming. That silence says a lot. When they said any speculation regarding the nature of potential changes would be premature, it sounded like they see the issue, but are not ready to lock in a fix just yet. Carlos Sainz confirmed something big from inside the SUZUKA meetings. He said FIA single-seater director Nicolas Tombazis told drivers directly that changes are coming for Miami. That kind of message, said behind closed doors, hits way harder than any careful public statement, and timing matters here. That 5-week gap between SUZUKA and Miami is not just a break, it is the most important development window of the entire season. This is when the FIA, the teams, and engine manufacturers all sit down and hash things out face to face, deciding what the 2026 rules will actually look like moving forward. But Behrman's crash changed everything about those talks. Before SUZUKA, the focus was mostly on qualifying, on the show, on how the sport looks to fans. After SUZUKA, that tone shifted fast. Now the conversations are about one thing: safety, and nothing else comes close. And here is where it gets complicated. Fixing this is not some quick tweak. Every single part of the 2026 energy system is connected. You adjust one setting and it affects everything else: deployment, harvesting, straight-line speed, race strategy. That means every idea has to be tested, simulated, and debated between teams who all want different outcomes. Bernie Collins from Sky Sports F1 broke down the main options clearly. One of the biggest ideas is reducing how much battery energy can be charged and reused during a lap. That would push the cars closer to how they behaved in previous seasons and cut down those extreme speed differences between cars on different energy cycles. There is always a trade-off. If they cut back battery usage, lap times will take a hit, and the cars will be slower overall. That is the price of control. The second option being discussed is increasing fuel flow, pushing more power back to the internal combustion engine and easing the reliance on electrical energy through the lap. But that fix comes with its own problems. Not every team will benefit the same way. Different fuel designs, different cooling setups, completely different engine builds. So one change could shake up the grid instantly. It creates clear winners and losers, and that makes getting everyone to agree a real challenge. Andrea Stella also put forward a sharp idea: a 350 km/h superclip limit. That would directly target the most extreme cases of energy harvesting at top speed, cutting out the exact situation that led to Behrman's crash. It does not fix everything, but it goes straight at the most dangerous version of the problem. So what actually shows up in Miami? Right now, nobody can say for sure. That decision will come out of the April meetings, where every side will push hard for their solution. But one thing is clear across the board. This 5-week gap is not just time to think, it is a hard deadline. Because Behrman's crash was not some one-off moment in an otherwise perfect system. It exposed something bigger. These 2026 regulations are still being figured out in real time, right there on live race weekends. And while simulations tried to predict all of this, they did not fully capture what happens when real drivers are out there, pushing limits and dealing with the consequences at full speed. The problems showed up in qualifying first, and they were impossible to miss. Super clipping was right there on TV, cars slowing down on the straights while drivers kept the throttle fully down. It looked wrong, it felt wrong, and drivers were not hiding their frustration either. You could hear it in the radio messages after Japan qualifying, pure anger and confusion, all of it pointing to the same core issue. This 2026 energy system creates behavior that just does not feel natural. It is unpredictable, it tricks drivers, and when those speed gaps hit the extreme, it becomes dangerous. Behrman's crash proved that in the most serious way possible. Now, to be fair, the regulations are not completely broken beyond saving. SUZUKA still delivered real racing moments. There were strong opening laps, tight midfield fights, and strategy battles that actually added depth to the race. So yes, there are parts of this system that work. But here is the problem. The parts that do not work are too serious to ignore. You cannot just wait for things to fix themselves over time. This is not about performance tweaks anymore. This is about stepping in and making changes fast. Behrman's crash did one thing above all, it sped everything up. Those April meetings were already planned, and Miami updates were already being talked about. But a 50G impact changes the tone instantly. It adds pressure, urgency, and weight that no amount of complaints ever could. Because in Formula One, once safety becomes the issue, the timeline disappears. You do not wait, you act. Behrman walked away from that crash, but that outcome was not guaranteed at all. The runoff at Spoon Curve saved him, no question, and this is where Sainz's warning hits hard. Think about the next tracks. Miami, a street circuit, walls everywhere, no space to escape, no wide runoff, no second chances. If that same closing speed issue shows up there, the result could be very different. The FIA has the meeting scheduled, the drivers have made their stance clear, and the teams have already put solutions on the table. Now it comes down to action. Miami is not just another race on the calendar anymore. It is the deadline. The moment where Formula One has to prove it, understands what went wrong at SUZUKA, and show that it actually did something about it. Don't forget to like and subscribe to never miss a checkered flag report.